Welcome to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, I'm going to share my thoughts about the Panasonic S5 and whether or not you should upgrade to the S5 Mark II. Here we go. Let's talk about the positive common ground between both of these cameras. The sensor, the dynamic range on both of these cameras are both awesome. You get 14 plus stops of dynamic range, and the image quality is just simply stunning. These hold their own with far more expensive cameras like the Sony FX3, which I also own. That's a great camera for its own use case, but this has far more video-centric features, and the image out of this is still my favorite out of all of the full-frame cameras. Well, the S5 Mark II is basically the same thing, so image quality-wise, they both look great. Both of these cameras have dual SD card slots. There is a difference though. The S5 Mark II has matching UHS 2 card slots over just a single UHS 2 and a UHS 1 on the S5, although this doesn't give you any limitations, which was a strange decision to even put a UHS 1 card slot in there, but it is what it is. So overall, both of them are very similar in terms of their media storage. Both cameras share the exact same button and dial placement, so if you're familiar with the S5 already, if you do upgrade to the S5 Mark II, it feels identical, minus the fact that it's slightly thicker due to the active cooling. Both cameras share the same BLK22 battery, so if you plan on just adding an S5 Mark II to your arsenal alongside the original S5, the batteries are interchangeable and they both come with chargers, which is always a good thing. The biggest advantage to the S5 Mark II is that it now supports USB power delivery, so you can charge and run the camera indefinitely with a USB PD device. Now, if you already own a dummy battery for the original S5, those also work with the S5 Mark II. Without question, the talk of the town with the S5 Mark II is the new phase hybrid autofocus. That's the biggest difference between the original S5 and the new S5 Mark II. Now in the studio here, I use manual focus. I can turn my camera off, turn it back on, and it's good to go. But the great news is, with the S5 Mark II, I don't even have to worry about it. I can just turn it on, set it to continuous autofocus, and it will work beautifully. And if I move back or forwards or do anything like that, the camera will track my eye perfectly. So this is a really great camera if you need autofocus. If you're in a studio situation though, I don't believe you do need autofocus all of the time. But if you don't want to learn how to use manual focus, then the autofocus on the S5 Mark II is far superior. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people who like the manual focus experience. You're looking at one of them right here. Whether I'm behind the camera or just shooting a shot like this, I lock them off to manual focus because it gives me what I would consider a very reliable experience. But the downside of it is I can't do stuff like this and have it refocus. So if you're an unboxing channel, the win would go without question to the S5 Mark II. But for any normal talk to camera shots, you can make the S5 work without any problems. If you're a filmmaker or someone who likes the whole manual focus experience, stick with the S5. I don't think there's a big enough difference in the overall image quality, with one exception. The S5 Mark II allows us to shoot up to 6K in a full sensor readout, or something very similar to OpenGate. Technically, it's slightly different, but it's essentially the same thing. This allows you to crop in different aspect ratios and formats, so if you do a lot of social media work, I'm going to give the win to the S5 Mark II. The original S5 is capable of RAW external thanks to an Atomos Ninja, so if you already have that set up, stick with it. That will give you excellent results. I'm not sure whether or not right now the S5 Mark II is going to have any sort of RAW external recording. The original S5 does have a few recording restrictions, and they're placed on the 10-bit mode. So if you want to record at 4K 10-bit at 30 frames per second, you get a 30-minute limit. But the 8-bit modes are all unlimited, and that's how I use this camera in a multi-camera setup. If you don't have a computer that can really process 10-bit files, or you don't want to go through any type of post-production, you just want quick turnaround, the original S5 shooting 8-bit is still an absolute powerhouse. 8-bit gets dismissed a lot, and I know that there's times where it's suitable and times where it's unsuitable, but for most content like this, for example, if you plan on doing a YouTube channel, 8-bit is realistically all you'll need. Unless you're a pro and you want to get in there and fine-tune everything. I've never had anyone complain about my image quality on my other channel shooting in 8-bit on the S5. The image out of this is spectacular. Conversely, the S5 Mark II does give you a couple of recording restrictions, but these are all above 4K. But if you plan on shooting at 4K, DCI 4K or below, you can let this record all day. I felt that rhyme coming. There's two other major factors that might appeal to you with the S5 Mark II. We get that full-size HDMI port. This is awesome. It means you can go straight into a monitor external recorder without needing a dongle or a specialized cable. It makes life so much easier. So the win, again, goes to the S5. In my multi-camera setup, I run external monitors. I have to have dongles plugged into every camera. It's a huge pain. If I can't find the dongle, it's a nightmare. This just simplifies the entire process. While there's definitely some longevity benefits and convenience benefits to that full-size HDMI port, you can make this work. And if you don't plan on going to an external monitor all of the time, then the micro HDMI port on the original S5 might not bother you too much. But it's one of those things where once you have to start using dongles, it really becomes frustrating unless you've got a dedicated setup, which is how I use this in the other studio. But anytime I have to take the cameras out, put them back in, I'm like, oh yeah, where's the dongle again? It's just a bit of a nightmare in that regard. But for folks who aren't using dongles, the original S5 will still give you excellent results. Another win goes to the S5 Mark II when it comes to its active IS or in-body image stabilization. Now, if you like just to stand there and use the IS boost, they're both even. In that case, I would say go for the original S5. But if you plan on doing any type of follow shots, this new active IS system in the S5 Mark II is far superior to that of the original S5. It's great. It's every bit as good or almost as good as the Panasonic GH6. So that's a micro 4/3 camera. So being able to get excellent stabilization out of a full frame camera takes this one to the next level. The S5 Mark II now has active cooling. So depending on your shooting scenario, this could be a huge benefit. It's stinking hot here tonight. It's 34 degrees Celsius out there, and it's 8:30 p.m. or 9 o'clock p.m. or something, and it's stinking hot. So if you're in a situation where you need active cooling to keep the camera cool, this would be the way to go. At the end of the day, you've got to pick the right tool for the job and for your shooting scenario. So if you need great autofocus and better IBIS or a full-size HDMI port, that's where the S5 Mark II will make far more sense than the original. But if the original S5 is doing the job, like it is for me, I don't plan on replacing all of them, at least not yet anyway. We'll see what happens down the track. The best thing about a multi-camera setup is when all of the cameras match, and I would need to replace 3 more of these with S5 Mark IIs in those scenarios, and I don't plan on doing that. But I do plan on getting 2 of these for handheld work. I think the IBIS paired with the autofocus, paired with all the great flexibility of the original S5 makes this a no-brainer for handheld work for my particular shooting scenario, or if I'm doing long form content in the studio. Let us know in the comment section if you're planning on upgrading. I definitely think this will be a great addition to someone's bag if you do love the overall shooting experience with the S5, but you're looking for something that has way better autofocus and a better IBIS system. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.